Now we're joined by Larry Kudlow, National Economic Council Director. Larry, I got to start with politics. Two guests who are members of the Trump team withdrew from our program this morning, David Bossie and Tim Murtaugh. They were called off this program. We're believed to go to meetings in the White House. Is there significance in that? Is there a regrouping within the White House, bearing in mind these difficult political developments outside? What do you say?
Stu, you got the best of the herd here, the best of the litter, the cream of the crop. I'm here for you, always.
Okay.
What more can we do? You got me.
Larry, let's get serious here. You tell me.
You don't want to talk to those other guys.
Okay, I want to talk to you. You are a serious guy. So
yes.
What is the state of play within the White House at the moment? I've got to tell you, Larry, John Roberts from Fox is saying that Trump says he will not concede. The Biden camp is responding that the United States government is perfectly capable of escorting trespassers out of the White House. This is tense stuff, Larry. What's the situation in the White House?
Well, look, Stuart, I'm not going to comment on this campaign stuff. I understand it's important, but my lane is economic policy. I know that the president wants to make sure this is a fair election and a legal election with legal ballots. He has said that many times, including last evening. Vice President Pence has said the same thing. And, of course, that's all I can really say. I'm not going to forecast. I'm not going to predict. The United States is the greatest democracy in the world. We have always abided by the rule of law, and we will continue to abide by the rule of law.
Is he going to continue to fight through the court to the bitter end?
Well, I don't know about the bitter end. I don't know what that means. But I will say to you seriously, I did speak to him this morning, and I believe he intends to fight for what he believes in, and he intends to fight what he perceives to be some non-legal problems. That's the way I'll phrase it. I'm not the lawyer. Yes, the president intends to fight. That I can tell you.
Larry Kudlow, I know you really want to talk about the jobs report, and so do our viewers, and that's a fact. But it occurs to me that it was a strong jobs report, but it came a bit late. It came a few days after the election, so it lost its political importance. But it was a strong report.
Yeah, look, for the 906,000 private sector workers who got back to work, it's darn important. And we're down to 6.9% unemployment, which is extraordinary in 6 months during this pandemic contraction. And Stu, I would say to you that these numbers show you how strong the economy is going to be going into the fourth quarter, right? So we're in November. These are October numbers. It shows you how strong we are. And people who think that the fourth quarter is going to be bad or negative or something are wrong. Look, across the board, Stu, the ISMs show how strong we are doing. Automobiles, housing, retailing, all those numbers coming in strong. Income, disposable income after tax, coming in strong. This thing has a lot of momentum. It is, in fact, a V-shaped recovery. It's got a lot of momentum behind it. And I'll say one last point. You have a very nice business cycle situation here, whereby the savings rate is up, way up, 14% plus, and the inventories are still down. So that means you're going to have strong demand, and all the manufacturers and the builders and the retailers are going to have to rebuild their inventories. That shows power for the economy, not only in the fourth quarter, but spilling over into 2021.
One last one, another positive in my opinion, and I think in yours. Is socialism dead in America?
Well, socialism got pretty bad reviews, didn't it, on Tuesday? That's an interesting point, a very interesting point. There was no blue wave. We've gained a bunch of seats in the House. The estimates are ranging at least 10 to 12 seats, perhaps as high as 18 seats. We will hold the Senate, and the presidential race is very, 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 very close. So the Democratic Party leftward move towards socialism, high taxes, re-regulation, taking over large chunks of the economy, such as healthcare and energy, ending, punishing success, not rewarding it, removing incentives from the economy with all kinds of central planning plans. I would throw those plans away. I think they go into the trash bucket. We will govern, and I think, just last point, President Trump, this recovery, we had a good rescue package last winter. led by Secretary Mnuchin and the president. But low taxes and low regulations are still in place now as people recover. Let's not forget that. And I don't think the Trump tax cuts will be overturned, no matter what the outcome of the election. Of course, President Trump, reelected, will cut taxes some more and continue to lower regulations. But if it turns out differently, I still think his policies are so consequential and tied to this incredible pandemic recovery, much less the first 3 years where the middle class did so well. I just think folks want that to stay. Those policies will stay in place.
You ended it on a high note, Larry. Well done indeed. Larry Kudlow, everyone. Hope to see you again very soon, Mr. Kudlow.
Thank you, Stu. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.